the Rattlers? Why not talk about FAMU? Going into this offseason, this seems to be another big offseason for Florida A&M, right? While they've been in the SWAC in these past 2 years since COVID, they actually have fared pretty well. They've actually only lost to one opponent, and that's Jackson State. Their record is 18-5 overall in the past 2 years. The job that Willie Simmons has done has not been applauded enough. I'm sure about FAMU fans. I know y'all love y'all Willie Simmons, but to the rest of the watching public, the casuals, Willie Simmons is doing a phenomenal job at FAMU and keeping the boat afloat and continuing to be contenders for now a third straight year, right? So within this dark cloud defense, this is the defense that nobody wants to go against, right? The Marquise Bell defense, the Isaiah Land defense, Isaiah Major and Kamari Stevens now will run this defense. They're going to be the two stars on this defense. They're going to be the guys that make this thing go. They have so many returners this year for Florida A&M. They are very deep at pretty much every position, and they return a lot of injured guys, right? So let's get into it, right? Isaiah Major and Kamari Stevens, as I mentioned, are going to replace some of those key guys. We got Javon Morgan, safety, who's been at Florida A&M now. He's now a graduate student. Great safety. Is going to be returning for them. At cornerback, we're talking about Kendall Bowler, brother of B.J. Bowler, and we're talking about Kamani King, former transfer from Iowa State. And his buddy who transferred with him, Eric Horn, will also now be available during this fall. He didn't play last year. So FAMU gets to bring back another piece to this dark cloud defense. This dark cloud defense welcomes back Jordan Moore, a former four-star safety, who has now transitioned to linebacker for FAMU. I'm talking about a very skilled linebacking core and a front seven that is becoming more and more switchable. If we're being real, they can all move around at their own rate. And speaking of switchable, on the defensive line, you're going to talk about Kamari Stevens, one of the top defensive linemen in the SWAC this year. He's going to be teamed up with General Hunt, who did not play during the spring game and did not practice during spring practice. Teamed them up with Dre Jones, and you got some action down there on that defense. That Florida A&M defense could be scary this year. Isaiah Major, to me, was the SWAC Defensive Player of the Year, right? If it wasn't for Albie Miller, a couple other guys, he's a shoo-in for that spot. This year, I can see him taking it again, right? I can see him back in that same spot, back up in there in that same contention of top three players that are the best defenders in the SWAC. So let's get into the the Florida A&M spring game. Very fun spring game, by the way. Went into triple overtime, if you didn't know. This was probably one of the most competitive spring games I've seen in some time. I want to give a big shout out to Kyle Logan down at WTXL Tallahassee. They do a great job in feeding these different games and different highlights. So off the opening drive, man, Jeremy Musa looked very good. To keep it a buck, Jeremy Musa looked the part. He's been looking the part. This is his touchdown to win the game. Jeremy Musa and his progression at FAMU is really going to determine how far this FAMU team goes, right? And last year, that's what I thought would be the case for Jeremy Musa, but I think that Jackson State was that nail in the road for them. This year coming up, Jackson State is still there, but there's no Coach Prime, don't get me wrong. This is a different team. I think FAMU at this point is in the driver's seat, and they have everything to play for at this point. They have a very strong team full of seniors and senior leadership. The experience alone in the SWAC helps Florida A&M greatly over a lot of other teams in the SWAC East. I wouldn't be surprised if we see Florida A&M make another run and do what they always do in the SWAC.